morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the Manhattan District Court, casting long beams of gold across the polished wooden floors. Reporters shuffled in, attorneys whispered strategies to their clients, and the gallery buzzed with the usual tension of a high-stakes trial. But among all the lawyers in suits and defendants in handcuffs, one figure stood out, a teenage boy, no older than 17, dressed in a simple navy hoodie, jeans, and worn-out sneakers. His name, at least according to the court list, was Ethan Myers. He walked slowly toward the defense table, clutching a stack of papers the way a nervous student clutches exam notes. The people in the courtroom turned to look at him with confusion and amusement. A teenager, alone, in a felony courtroom. Judge Harold Whitman, a stern man known for his short temper and sarcastic tongue, peered over his glasses with a smirk. "Well, well," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Looks like someone wandered away from homeroom. Son, this is a courtroom, not a high school field trip." Laughter rippled through the gallery. Ethan froze. His hands trembled, but he didn't say a word. The judge continued, "Do you even know where you are? You can't represent anyone here. This isn't TV." Maury chuckles. Even the prosecutor shook his head. But Ethan simply placed his papers on the table, straightened them, and took a quiet breath. He looked small, fragile, completely out of place, yet his eyes, if anyone cared to notice, held a strange confidence behind the fear. Judge Whitman tapped his gavel. "Young man, who exactly are you here with? Where are your parents?" Ethan finally spoke, his voice soft but steady. "Your Honor, I'm here for the Simmons case." The courtroom stilled. Judge Whitman blinked. "The Simmons case? Son, that's a federal-level fraud hearing. Where is your lawyer?" Ethan swallowed hard. "I am the legal counsel." The room exploded in murmurs. "Oh, this is rich," the judge laughed. "Security, please escort this boy out before he hurts himself." Two guards stepped forward. Ethan didn't move. Instead, he pulled out a single document and placed it on the judge's bench. "Your Honor," he said, "this is a federal authorization letter confirming my status as a licensed attorney with provisional clearance to appear in this court under the Juvenile Exceptional Competency Program." Silence. People leaned forward, squinting to see if it was real. Judge Whitman frowned and picked up the document. As he read, the smirk slowly faded from his face, his eyebrows rose, his mouth parted slightly. The courtroom watched him unravel. Ethan kept standing quietly, hands clasped, as if he were used to this reaction, people doubting him, mocking him, underestimating him. After nearly 30 seconds of stunned silence, the judge finally looked up. This can't be right," he whispered. But it was. And the truth was about to shake the entire courtroom. Judge Whitman held the authorization letter with trembling fingers, reading line after line as the courtroom waited, breathless. It wasn't a prank. It wasn't a forged paper. It wasn't some teenager playing pretend. The letter was stamped by the Department of Justice, signed by 2 federal supervisors, and carried the unmistakable seal of the Juvenile Exceptional Competency Program, a nearly unknown initiative reserved for prodigies with IQ levels off the charts. The judge cleared his throat. Ethan Myers, age 16, certified to practice under federal supervision, specialization in fraud, cybercrime, and constitutional law. He looked up, stunned. "Is this all accurate?" Ethan nodded gently. "Yes, Your Honor." Gasps filled the room. Reporters scrambled for their phones. The prosecutor, Ms. Lauren Chase, a confident, sharp woman with a reputation for being undefeated, stared at Ethan like she was seeing a ghost. "You're telling me," she said slowly, "that the boy who walked in here wearing a hoodie is the defense attorney for a federal fraud case?" Ethan didn't flinch. "Yes, ma'am, and I'm prepared to proceed." Maury murmurs, disbelief, shock. Judge Whitman sat back, unsure how to continue. The courtroom that had mocked Ethan minutes earlier now seemed almost afraid of him. The judge gestured for the guards to return to their posts. "Very well," he said. "Proceed with your opening arguments." Ethan picked up his folder. walked to the center of the courtroom and stood behind the wooden podium. His client, Mr. Arthur Simmons, a middle-aged accountant accused of embezzling $4.2 million, looked at him with hope and confusion. Ethan's voice was calm. "Ladies and gentlemen of the court, the prosecution claims that Mr. Simmons orchestrated a sophisticated financial fraud scheme. But today, I will show you something different, that he was framed by a system designed to hide mistakes behind innocent people." Lauren Chase crossed her arms with a sarcastic smile. "This should be interesting." Ethan pressed a button on the courtroom projector. A series of financial charts lit up the screen, but unlike typical charts, these were color-coded, annotated, and cross-referenced with timestamps and server routes. "Exhibit A," Ethan said. "These transactions were executed using a VPN chain originating in Eastern Europe. Mr. Simmons was physically in New Jersey at the time, logged into his workplace computer, but more importantly, he zoomed in on a detail. The login credentials used weren't his. They were generated using a keylogger installed 9 months earlier." Lauren Chase's smile faded. She leaned forward. "How did you get this information? We didn't receive any such data in discovery." Ethan met her gaze. "That's because your forensic team dismissed the server logs as corrupted. They were. You simply didn't know how to decode them." A ripple went through the courtroom. The judge raised a brow. "Ms. Chase, is this true? Did your team overlook this?" She stuttered. We did not see these files." Ethan continued, "Exhibit B," switching to a video clip of an IT department employee accessing restricted files. "This man, who has since disappeared, planted the keylogger, and someone else used those stolen credentials to funnel money, then pinned it on my client." The courtroom erupted. Reporters stood. Simmons began to cry. Even Judge Whitman leaned forward, fascinated. And in that moment, a once-mock teenager stood at the center of a Manhattan courtroom, not as a joke, not as an imposter, but as a genius attorney tearing apart a federal case piece by piece. The courtroom was electric. Ethan Myers, the 16-year-old prodigy, stood calm amid the chaos. Judge Whitman rubbed his temples, trying to process the fact that a teenager had just dismantled a federal fraud case with the precision of a seasoned attorney. Ethan turned to the jury. "Members of the jury, this case isn't about assumptions or appearances. It's about facts, and the facts prove my client's innocence." He presented the final piece of evidence, an encrypted file recovered from the original company server. With a few keystrokes, the file decrypted, revealing a clear chain of transactions that traced the fraud back to the real perpetrators. The jury gasped, exchanging glances of disbelief. Even Ms. Chase, the prosecution, could only watch, humbled by his brilliance. "Your Honor," she said finally, "it appears the defendant is innocent." Judge Whitman's gavel barely touched the bench. "The court finds Mr. Simmons not guilty on all charges." The courtroom erupted into applause. Reporters shouted questions, but Ethan remained composed, quietly collecting his papers. Simmons hugged him, tears streaming down his face. Outside, news vans rushed in, capturing the moment. Headlines would read, "Teen Genius Saves Innocent Man in Federal Court." Within hours, Ethan Myers became a national sensation, inspiring debates about talent, education, and the age at which someone could change the legal world. But Ethan didn't seek fame. He walked away quietly, leaving Judge Whitman staring after him. For the first time in decades, the judge realized he had underestimated someone, and the system itself had been shaken, not by scandal, not by corruption, but by a teenage mind proving that brilliance knows no age. That day, Ethan Myers didn't just win a case. He challenged assumptions, broke barriers, and reminded the world that genius often comes in the most unexpected forms, and the American justice system would never be the same again.